What do you think the first thing a person that is this is the first day, the first step? What does that
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I think the first step is really acknowledging the problem and, understanding that, if they want to get this out of their life or not. We see a whole lot of people that just know they need to get it out of their life, but they're not committed yet to getting out of their life. Maybe their
Mhm.
What does that
spouse
mean,
knows.
Rob? I was gonna say, what tell us what practically that looks like.
Yeah, yeah. So, we've run into a lot of guys that, their spouse catches them in this or finds
Yep.
this, and they want it out of their life, and they've struggled with that in the relationship. And so they know their wife wants them to stop, or maybe even his, gotten them covenant eyes
Yep, yep.
in taking some steps. But in their heart, they're not committed. They're not convicted yet that I need to make a change here.
Mm,
And so it's so important to really gauge where guys are at in that. And then it takes some time and a lot of conversations, but we need to really see that somebody's acknowledging their problem. And, next step is really confessing that sin. We talked about that earlier. So many guys want to carry this. This is a private issue, and so many guys want a private solution to this. God didn't design us to live in isolation. He designed us as community. He designed us for, um, to hold each other up. And so we need to confess that. We need to get that out in the open. Satan loves when we're isolated and keeping these things because he can keep us in shame. As
yep.
soon as we announce that and get that off our chest and get others into that, we've just magnified our power with getting this out of our life. So acknowledging it, confessing it to others. Um, and then a lot of times guys really need to align their values and beliefs. We call it kind of a cognitive dissonance, where guys know that this is not right and God does not want us to do this, but yet I'm still doing it. And so they haven't aligned those two issues. And until they really do and understand, God doesn't want this, and I know why, and I'm going to start to try and live toward that. That's really kind of a key piece is them really understanding, um, and aligning their actions with God's desire there and our responsibilities as a Christian there. Um,
Rob, when you said that,
mhm.
what it made me think of is, and I don't know if so. Is this what you're getting at? There's there's a difference sometimes between going, I have a conviction about this. I believe that this is the way that Jesus is calling me to live, but s- I haven't basically reset any of the structures around
Yeah,
me to
it's exactly it.
support that.
Yeah,
In a
I
lot of
haven't
ways.
aligned my
Yeah.
actions to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
So,
that's a
yeah,
huge deal. I mean,
it
when you think
really
about
is.
anything you want to do in life, you want to lose weight, you want to
Yeah,
develop a relationship with your child, where you've got to then, it's not enough to desire that. Part of what you're
right,
getting at. You've
right.
also then got to come and put the structures behind it. I love how I think James Clear talks about, like, whatever the results are of your life,
Yeah,
your structures and systems are perfectly designed to give you that result right now. So
yeah, yeah,
you're going to
exactly.
get the
That's
result that
yeah.
you've um, so what are some of those structures then that you would say, so here's some starting points. Is it throw the laptop away? I mean, I know obviously covenant eyes is part of that and we should talk about that, but are there other structural, like, hey, you're going to probably have to consider doing this or getting rid of that or doing, doing this differently now?
Yeah, 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 and that's really kind of that next step in it is being prepared to make those changes. Really, kind of one of the first things, and that's why I think accountability partners or
Mhm.
allies are so important. Is most of the time the next step is really understanding what our triggers and struggles are, where they're coming from, how they're happening, because they're habit forming. They are we're using pornography often to self medicate
Mm,
struggles that we have. Psychologists talk about the acronym B halt. When we're bored, when we're hungry, when we're
mm.
um, angry, lonely, tired, those are all triggers a lot of times for people using pornography to medicate those issues or those struggles. Certainly things from our past can be there. Um, so it's important that people understand why and when do I turn to pornography. Um, there's clear patterns in clear responses that we have that trigger our use of pornography. So until we understand those, it's pretty hard to know how to get out of it, because we have to cut the use off. We have to stop that use, just like drugs and alcohol. If we don't stop drinking, it's pretty hard to you know defeat alcoholism and so forth. And so, understanding when and why we're turning to pornography then gives us the ability to start putting some strategies in place of, um, how do I start beating this? And certainly, our phones, that's our biggest culprit most of the time with where we're struggling or where we're getting it. And so that's going to be probably a piece of it, and getting accountability, changing. We may need to change our technology. We may need to give up some things. We may need to get off social media, most likely, or certain sites. And so all of these changes need to be in place, but we have to understand, um,
Those
what
are the
things we need to
Yeah, I was
do.
gonna say those are the cures in some ways. It doesn't,
Yeah,
but it's setting the stage for the healing. And
yeah,
so sometimes you just need to triage, and you just need to, it's like,
yeah,
no, I got a wound right now. I just need to go, well, how you got that wound, we need to talk about that later, but right now we just got to stop the bleeding. Sometimes I
yeah,
think those
yeah.
systems and structures that you're talking about, that is just what's needed for right now so that you can address some of the, what did
It
you call
often
it?
is. Yeah.
Exactly. And by the
Mhm.
way, that's exactly what Jesus said in that same passage about lust when he says, it's better to gouge out your eye
Mhm.
than to live, go into this,
To go to the
go into
lust.
Hades and go into hell with
Mhm.
with both eyes and cut off your hand. And he's basically just saying, he's speaking hyperbolically, but just saying you need to throw the phone away if you have to.
Yeah,
That might not
yeah,
mean that for everybody, but put whatever structures you need to put in place to where you don't become less of who God made you to be, because
yeah,
it's going to destroy you.
yeah,
So
absolutely.